Hey guys, it's Codiak and Livid, and today we are in the Buried City map. This is one I don't think a lot of people who have just caught on to Arc Raiders have had the chance to experience. Livid, the master, with over 100 plus hours in our testing of this game over almost 2 years, has really explored every corner of this map. And Liv, I think we have to start with the map. This is one of the most unique and interesting PvP competitive maps I've ever played on. So I just want you to kind of give everybody an overview of what they can expect when they load into this map.
Yeah, I personally love this map. This is one of my favorite ones to play on. It's essentially like this old rustic, I want to say like Italian town. I think this is all based in like Italy, as far as I know. But it's like an old rustic town that's been since, you know, with the whole apocalypse and stuff that's happened, kind of washed all the sand and debris all over this, you know, this once historic town. So now you have buildings that are creeping out of sand dunes and things that are going underground, and you have like areas that you've worked through that have like sand leaking into them and everything. It's very cool. And a big portion of this map takes place on like rooftops, but the rooftops, you know, connect to the ground, which is really cool. So you get these rooftop engagements, and then these like these kill box like city streets going on, and then some like some like CQC kind of stuff going on. It's pretty cool. So
it's such an interesting blend of like tight corridors, buildings, but also like almost this fluid verticality, right? You can go from really low on the map to really high on the map just because you're, you know, going up a sand dune and then going and cresting a roof. And then all of a sudden you can jump into a building like this, and all of a sudden you're in, you know, a residential environment. It's one of the most unique maps, I think, that I've played on in any game like this. And here, actually, you drop down and you're going into some completely different environment. So talk about this.
Yeah, so this is just like a metro station. So every map kind of has its own gimmick with extractions. And for this map, it's a metro station. So instead of a top elevator that you call and you're kind of exposed outside, you have to go all the way down into a metro, hit a button to call a train, and wait for that train to come in. And when that happens, there's like lights that flash up on the surface so people know which metros are active. And then also when the train actually arrives and it opens the doors on both sides of the station. So you could be on your side, never experiencing an enemy team, and as soon as it opens for you to get on board and the doors open on both sides, a whole nother team comes in from the other side and you just break out in a fight. So it's a really cool extraction that you can't like always engage with the enemy team that you're about to fight until the extraction's there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and this is part of one of the tech tests that we did quite a while ago. And you could even see in Livid's gameplay, you know, still learning the map, still trying to figure out all of the different angles and kind of the flow of the map. Anywhere outside, you're pretty much exposed in a number of different ways, right? Because there are so many different residential buildings, alleyways, roofs that people can get you in. It's very different than a map like Dam, where, you know, you've got kind of vast amounts of nothingness and then a building, a central building. This is a lot of interconnectivity, just a lot of ways to just kind of run into other players.
Yeah, and there's, you know, even when players spawn in on the map, like the spawns on the outer edge of the map, it's actually like the dunes are kind of like going at a downward slope. So even players that spawn on the outside tend to have sight lines on people on the roofs on the inside, which is a really cool way of balancing that, you know, that height advantage kind of thing with new people coming in. It's very cool.
Yeah. And just like any other map, when you go into an Arc Raiders round, like your goal should be, you know, something that you communicate as a team if you're playing with a team, or as an individual, you're having some sort of goal in mind as you go into these matches. Right now, again, we were in a tech test here and we were still trying to figure out, I think, a lot of parts of the game, but we're going to get into some action relatively soon. And one of the things you'll notice is in the middle of this town, and you can kind of see it in the background, is this massive like highway that splits across the entire map. So Liv, talk about that, because I know you've had plenty of fights on that highway.
Yeah, it's a part where a lot of things break out, and you know, since this tech test, they've added a lot more like rocketeers in the air and drones in the air, and it becomes like the airspace actually becomes quite crowded with enemies, and it turns into these fights where you have people using that highway pass to get to the major POIs. But when you choose to do that, you're really exposing yourself because of the ways to get on. You see right here, like, there's players that were going to go towards that highway pass, and we were on this other side, and I saw them, and I waited for them to jump down so they couldn't easily get to cover, and I was able to knock one out right away. You know, and here I'm throwing grenades. I always recommend carrying grenades, especially heavy fuses, and it allows you to hit like players. Like I did significant damage to that raider. I probably even fully killed one right there. But you always want to have those on you to kind of finish players off that are getting behind cover or flush enemies out of cover. And, you know, my teammates were farther away at this point, so I called them in. I was like, "Hey, boys, there's people over here," and they all came running. So,
yeah, you've also got a Renegade equipped, and if you have not had the pleasure of using a Renegade before, one of the most versatile weapons currently in the game. I think yours has a silencer on it, maybe?
Sure
so
does.
Talk a little bit about that.
yeah, so the Renegade is like a medium to long range battle rifle, but you can use it close quarters if you're accurate. So it's super versatile. And then it has the ability, like, there's a lot of weapons in the game that have the ability to mod them to put, you know, extra mags and stuff like that. But I have a silencer on mine, and silencers in this game don't actually decrease your damage. And then fun fact about weapons in general, nothing in the game modifies the damage stats of a weapon. So the weapons are always finely tuned in their damage for balance purposes, and then everything else is tweaked, like fire rate, you know, how quickly things reload, how quickly you can... the handling on it to bring it to, you know, to aiming at your target, stuff like that. So it keeps things really balanced that way. And so what the silencer does is it doesn't decrease your damage or increase your damage. It just makes you, you know, make less noise, which in this game you want as little noise as possible. Any weapon that can have silencers is usually a better weapon than those that can't, in my honest opinion.
Yeah. So right now you guys are kind of at a standoff with another group that's up on the highway overpass. And this is one of the interesting dynamics, I think, of this map in particular, is like you can't go forward, you can't easily go backwards. So you end up kind of stuck. And I think this happened to us a few times as we were playing this map. It's such an interesting design that when you get kind of, we're not even pinched at this point, right? You're just, there's another team over there, you know they're there, but you really don't want to go backwards because you could get ambushed, you know, 10 ways to Sunday. So it's a really interesting dynamic that it creates just because of the map design.
Yeah, like even us on the roof right now, we're in a way that we're against walls on top of a building, so that way we're concealed from at least one or two sides behind us, you know. And we're not making a lot of noise. We're not just firing randomly at them if we don't have line of sight on them, because we don't want people knowing that we're there.
Yeah, and it also goes back to something we've talked about in a lot of our videos, you know, that are coming out on the channel, is like you have to have patience in these rounds. These rounds, while you can be aggressive, there are times to be aggressive. There's also times to be incredibly patient, right? And to Livid's point, there's a lot more arcs that are on this map now, but the team here is not rushing to get to a new position. They're not rushing to make any, you know, rash decisions. And Livid with the Renegade, again, kind of a medium to medium long range weapon, he can kind of provide that little bit of overwatch by hanging back. And you see, you know, the two teammates here kind of rush forward to try and get a new position that would give them, you know, a different vantage
Yeah,
point.
they grenaded all the people that were in cover. They knocked one person. They got the other guys to run. And when I see them running, then I know I have a chance to move up with them. And then there's somebody behind us now at this point also.
Yeah, this map is just notorious. There's so many different viewpoints of multiple parts of the map, and that tower right there is another one, right? A lot of players get stuck in that tower for better or worse. And then really, if you're on this highway overpass, you just have a target on your back. It's a great place to be, but it's also a really dangerous place to be.
Yeah, and we knew we were getting pinched there. We knew players were coming. As you can see, we're even getting shot flying away from here. But we knew we always carry zip lines with us for these exact reasons. Like, if we need to get off that bridge, running straight down the bridge just means people are going to keep following you down that bridge. If you smoke and put a zip line, yes, you'll take some damage getting away, but now if they try to follow you over here, they either have to go down where you saw that one guy get knocked, or they have to take our zip line, which just gives us free shots on those people. So there's a lot of like tactical advantage to using a zip line. So now we're trying to pick off players that are all trying to pinch in. You can see how quickly all these people are swarming into this area now that there's fights. And you'll see at a certain point
Yeah, and that was
here,
two different teams there.
Yeah, I think there's actually 3 teams. There's one on the bridge and there's 2 that were over there that were fighting. Those were not there, 5 minutes ago. And so,
there's one team
fighting.
you can see on the bridge behind you right now, right by the zip line there. There's a team still in the distance. So yeah, this is one of the interesting dynamics of this map, is that it's like you stay in one position for too long, very good chance you're going to get pinched because of the way that like the map kind of funnels players to certain parts, like specifically the highway.
And you see we're holding like this corner on this chimney, but at a certain point it's going to get way too hot because there's still those players that are off to the left. There's the players here on the bridge, and we're kind of bottled into this one area. And we're like, okay, anybody else have another zip line? We always carry extra zip lines, and we're going to have to at a certain point just get out of here because it's going to get to a point where they're going to start fanning out on the bridge, fanning out on our left, and we're just like, we need to go. So I was debating putting a zip line
one good grenade
up.
here, you guys would be dead.
Correct. And you see, Miles already put up a zip line to that building for us to go. I was gonna put one down, but then I didn't notice it at the time that he had put that one already up. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll just take that one down there. But either way would have been a good opportunity. But this gets us directly into cover. But you'll see, like, as soon as we take this, they were watching us on this roof, what we were gonna do, and I'm already getting super cracked.
Yeah, so now we're in kind of more of a familiar environment for some of the other Arc Raider maps, right? Like Dam Battlegrounds, which a lot of people had exposure to, Spaceport, right? These larger points of interest. You know, what you were doing with the team outside of this was really the open world, right? The open parts of Ruined City. Buried City? Ruined City?
Buried City.
Yep. Now we're in a more structured POI. So you have very different dynamics on the map at play too.
Yeah, and my loadout is not great for sitting inside of a building, so I generally want to fight on roofs and stuff for my specific loadout. But the things they're carrying are better for close quarters. So we always have somebody that's, when we play in a group, we always have somebody that's spec'd for a certain kind of like location. So somebody can always be like the front man for that. And right now we're like, we realize how many teams were already coming to pinch over there. We didn't really think there was much to gain off of the loot wise because there were so many bodies already scattered all over the place that you would have to take like zip line to get to something to be exposed. We just didn't think it was worth it at that point. So we got enough of our fights and we're just like, you know what, let's just call it, let's just extract, let's just get out of here.
And sometimes that's what needs to happen, right? You actually can see one of the drone pods right there on the left.
Yeah, the survey probes that come down, yeah.
Survey prones if you want to get some additional resources. But yeah, one of the challenges with this map is that, knocking players from middle distance, it makes it very hard to go get their loot, right? So the looting dynamic is also really different on this map too.
Yeah, and you see I just looted a Raider cache. If you're ever playing on any of these maps and you hear like a slight ticking sound in your ear, it means there's like an exposed Raider cache. And those are really good even now, after all these like tests and everything. You often have like blue shields or extra green shields or Raider augments or attachments or ammo or grenades. Like if you hear them, you generally want to loot them because they're good resources to just bring with you and stockpile. And we felt at this point, we didn't know if people were following us, if we wanted to really fight in the station. So we just opted to use one of our Raider hatch keys and just get out.
Right. So no traditional extract. You guys got out quickly and you got out alive. That's what matters.